Derrick Henry is a Raven. Diontae Johnson is a Panther. What's up with the Eagles and Texans? What's up with the linebacker market? We got a lot to reflect on today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big shout out, thank you, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every single day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase.
Joe, I am swimming in all of the content that is coming out courtesy from the National Football League in the second week in March. Swimming in it.
We are swimming, maybe drowning a little bit. A lot of transactions have went down.
Swimming.
Yeah. Oh, little Finding Nemo. Have you watched that movie recently?
Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had it on a couple months ago. Why?
Yeah, I had it on a couple months ago too. And man, that's a stressful movie. You know, like it's a little bit like Rocky IV, where you know what happens, but you're kind of wondering, like, I don't know. I don't know if
is it like one of those choose your own adventure things where it's just a little different every time you watch it.
I don't think it's gonna come together. And then
I don't think we're gonna jump out the window from the dentist's office.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Take us home and we're gonna get flushed down the toilet or
you know
what's more stressful than Finding Nemo? Finding Dory. Have you seen Finding Dory?
Yeah, that's a mess. Yeah. I went to the theater to see that, actually.
Aquarium experience is just one ridiculous transition after another.
Speaking of ridiculous transitions.
Yeah.
We got players to talk about, Cal. We got a lot to get to.
Yeah.
This Aaron Rodgers stuff. Boy, oh boy. Look, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's going to happen here. But can't you see it? This is my duty. It's bigger than football. I got to leave the Jets for a year, whatever he's going to do to go be the independent VP candidate.
Let's make something abundantly clear. Yeah. We're not going to talk any politics.
No, of course.
But it is the Aaron Rodgers circus reaching new heights, unprecedented new heights in incredibly impressive fashion. When you thought there was like, Aaron just got done telling the world he was going to come back at 39 years old from a torn Achilles. And then in February, after it was all done, said, yeah, I still can't run, but other than that, everything's fine. He can't possibly top this, right? And then a month later, 2 weeks after he says all the headlines and distractions here with the Jets, they got to go. He's on the short list for a vice presidential ticket in the 2024 election.
The Kyle Fellows tweet at Packers_pundit. I've been on this podcast. April 25th, 2023. Jets fans going to be big mad when Rodgers doesn't play in 2024 so he could be Robert Kennedy's running mate. Brother.
Did you see his follow-up?
Yeah, heck of a job. Hey, while you're all paying attention, check out our draft guide.
Well, and he also said, my wife has requested the next time I use my powers, I use it on something productive.
Oh. So leave it to a Bills and a Dolphins guy to start this conversation by focusing in on this. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll put that on the back burner. But, man, boy, oh, boy. Just when you thought that Rodgers headlines couldn't get any crazier.
More ridiculous.
They do.
Some headlines, some things we do know, like you said. Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven after what seems like 3 years of flirtation.
Right.
And the Carolina Panthers have acquired a new wide receiver one for Bryce Young and Diontae Johnson for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Start with Henry. This was always such a logical thing. I think it's a perfect fit for Derrick Henry at this stage in his career based on kind of the traditional ways that they've ran the football. I think the dynamics of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and I mean, just running zone read with those guys. Are you kidding me? Like, that's going to be a lot to deal with. Now, I'm interested to see what they do at guard. They lost John Simpson already. Kevin Zeitler, a pending situation there. So I think they're going to have to get better there. But certainly the most logical destination. I think everybody kind of had this on their bingo card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know we connected those dots when we did the running back free agency preview and did the matchmaker, and we came to the same conclusion. So just from a strength perspective, you get really excited about how this can be complementary components within Baltimore's offense. And I'm fascinated to know what they do with the rest of that offensive line. I think they have a couple spots that obviously need to be addressed with both guard spots. But it's a great year for needing interior offensive linemen and offensive tackles in general in the draft. The backup tackle market is an area where there hasn't been a lot of movement. I don't know how many of those necessarily have guard flexibility that could help Baltimore, but Zeitler's still out there, as you said. So they got some flexibility in what ways they choose to go.
See, it feels like the deal came in pretty reasonable too. Was it $8 million per? So 2 years, $16 million. That's the same as DeAndre Swift. It's the same as Tony Pollard.
With, I think, max value of 20.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it feels right. I mean,
certainly not surprised by those dollar amounts.
And Jacobson and Barkley getting 12, in case of Barkley 12.5. I think it's appropriate. The point being, I don't think Baltimore had to overpaid to get him.
No, I don't think so. And the cap dump for cap dump swap, which is what I saw it referred to on X.
Yeah.
Donte Jackson and Diontate Johnson trading spots with Carolina and Pittsburgh, along with a couple of day 3 draft selections.
I like this a ton for Carolina. More so than Pittsburgh, who, I think Pittsburgh just created a huge need at wide receiver, and they get some help at corner, but they need so much more help at corner. I think Donte Johnson's a good football player, man. He's entering his age 28 season. He's been productive. The drop stuff has been fixed really over the last 3 seasons. A route runner, a separator. I think this is the best piece in this trade, and it goes to Carolina. And they needed something different for that wide receiver core. They had all these leverage guys and some young height, weight, speed guys that have a lot of work to do, but they get a route runner and a separator, which is the best thing you can give your quarterback. So good move for Carolina. It's about time we said that.
And I don't necessarily dislike it for Pittsburgh either, because they have a need at corner. So, I mean, to skip out on, you haven't really seen movement with the top of the available outside corner free agent market, where, at least to my knowledge, as of our recording, Stephon Gilmore's still available, Xavien Howard's still available, Steven Nelson's still available. There's some guys that are out there to not have to get into an open bidding with a guy that apparently you were reserved to moving on from anyway. And I think you do think about Pittsburgh and Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator there, right? You got all these tight ends.
Yeah, you can only throw the ball to one player at a time. So
you got the 2 backs in the backfield as valuable players for them. You got George Pickens on the outside. Maybe they're a day 2 wide receiver destination now, but how much success have they consistently had in Pittsburgh as an organization?
Yeah,
drafting day 2 wide receivers. It's the lock of the century. If they pick somebody in day 2 and you didn't like him, you were wrong.
Well, so right now it's Pickens and Calvin Austin, Des Fitzpatrick. That's kind of their top 3. So,
or that could even be a first round spot for Pittsburgh now that they've addressed corner. If the offensive line, the center position doesn't break favorably for them, or if they find a free agent, not that there's a ton out there right now. Connor Williams doesn't sound like he's intent in signing until later in the process. So they may go in and say, okay, center, wide receiver, those are our primary areas of need. We're hoping the board falls well for us to get one.
Do you know who the sneaky center that's still out there is that I don't think anyone's talking about? Is Brian Allen, who 2 years ago signed a 3-year, $20-something million deal with the Rams. He got injured the first year of that deal, and then Coleman Shelton just beat him out this past year. But if you're looking for a bargain center, Brian Allen, to me, makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I think center, receiver for Pittsburgh. We got to figure that out. I still think they need more at corner. But I guess the path is pretty clear to finding some answers there. And we'll see what happens at quarterback there with the weirdest competition of all time between Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett. Russ in the
let him
Russ. Cook. Yeah, we'll let him. What do we even say? Here we go. I don't even know. What's the cool thing? I don't.
I'll think about it on the break.
Yeah. If you can, we'll be right back. Stick with us. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Have you ever considered what you would do if you had an extra hour in your day? Would you exercise, read, spend time with a loved one, catch up on some sleep, perhaps? A lot of us spend our lives wishing we had more time. The question is, time for what? If time was unlimited, how would you use it? The best way to squeeze that special thing into your schedule is to know what's important to you and make it a priority. Therapy can help you find out what matters most to you so you can do more of it. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. Therapy empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It's not just for people who've experienced major trauma. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. And if you need to switch therapists at any time, you can do so for no additional charge. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn.
Let's beam. Like Steely McBeam, the mascot.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's weld. Steelers Nation, let's weld.
Oh, there it is. Let's weld. I like that. All right. We'll roll with that.
Let's roll with the linebacker market.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
Speaking of the Steelers and linebackers.
There you go.
The Steelers are
perfect.
Yeah.
Patrick Queen. Switching sides. And fun to see all the Ravens players on social media making fun of the Tiki Barber comments. I don't know if you've noticed that. Every single one of them has been like, this is like Ricard and Lamar. Like, oh, whatever, you traitor. Like, paraphrasing. That's not the verbiage that they chose to use. But it's been funny to see them kind of badger him in jest. And I know Tyreek Hill's done it with a few Dolphins guys too on the out. So I think the active player reaction to that headline has been very fun.
As long as it's all in good fun.
Right. We're all here to have fun. Patrick Queen going to have a lot of fun with the 3-year, $41 million a year contract that he signed to go to Pittsburgh.
Maybe not as much as we thought.
Yes, I would agree. I think there's some questions with Patrick Queen. And I think we talked about it when we did the linebacker group.
Yeah.
Him becoming the player that he's been when once Roquan Smith was present in the linebacker room and not having to be the guy. It's a shorter contract and it's a lower average salary contract than I expected for Patrick Queen.
Well, if it goes well, I mean, it's not a small deal. It's 3 years, $41 million. That's a very healthy contract. If he were to play out this deal, and I mean, the Steelers have an out of this contract after 1 year. But if he were to play it out, he's going to hit free agency again when he's 27 years old. Mm-hmm. So I think this does make sense for Patrick Queen. And surely if there was more money out there for him, he'd have taken it. I don't think there was. I think maybe some of those thoughts that you had, maybe we'll call them concerns, were also shared by the market. Again, 3 years, $41 million is not small, but it's not necessarily 15, 16, 17, 18, kind of where we thought maybe he would be.
He was also the last of kind of the prominent young linebackers to sign, which I think hurt him too. Because your asking price is probably your asking price. But you have Frankie Louvu going to Washington, 3 years, $36 million. You have Azeez Al-Shaiir signing for 3 years, $34.5. So that's 11.5 per and 12 per. The max value of Jordan Brooks in Miami is 3 years, $30. So he tops all those deals.
Yeah.
But was there, as the other linebacker teams start coming off the board with signings, it takes away some of your leverage too.
Yeah. It's a good point. And I don't feel like we're talking about any big off-ball linebackers in the draft. I guess they're going to be
Peyton Wilson is an absolute superstar with undrafted free agent medical background. So who knows where you're going to get drafted there?
That's LB1, right? Like, is there another contender?
Junior Colson from Michigan's a nice player, but I think he's probably a round 2 player.
So that maybe helps Queen. He still got the most for off-ball linebackers by $2 million
annually.
Yeah,
approximately.
It feels like it's been a minute since I was excited about a linebacker for Pittsburgh. They've been through it with linebackers.
Yeah. I mean, they had such the unfortunate ending with Ryan Shazier's career with the injury that he suffered. And it's felt like since his injury, they've kind of been looking for that dynamic player to be there.
Yeah. Even the Devin Bush trade, they moved from like 20 to 10 to get him.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was cool for like a season.
So I think it's a good fit. The familiarity obviously helps. Anytime you can pull from a divisional rival, they know where the bodies are buried, right? Like, they know all the secrets of their teammates, and there's some added insight that you can glean there. So that's nice for that rivalry. But Pittsburgh just needed athleticism, right? I mean, you're thinking about their backers and who they have. Elan and Roberts.
And Cole Holcomb, who's a linear athlete, just like a pursuit, chase you down the block type of guy, but not a dynamic in space player. And we just got done talking about when we talked about the safeties and how the safety market's down, and the impact of that is the pressure goes back to the linebackers. Well, who got paid? Patrick Queen got paid. Frankie Luvu got 12 per. Jordan Brooks got 10 per. Azeez Al-Shaiir, who can run like the wind, got 11.5 per to get reunited in Houston with D'Amico Ryans. All these rangy guys that can run and cover, getting big money. It almost doubled the amount of 10 million AAV contracts on the linebacker market. And then if you include the Colts extension that they gave Franklin,
for Zaire Franklin, that's another name.
So we had this conversation last week
with 6.
What was it, 6? And now we're up to 12.
So you have Franklin, you have Shaiir, you have Luvu, you have Queen, you max value have Jordan Brooks. I think the base there is closer to 9 though.
Yeah. So I think we're officially looking at Jordan Brooks as like 8, almost 9.
Yeah. Levante David signed for 1 year, $10 million.
Oh, good for he got the big raise after a 1 year 4. What a weird.
But he got
his contract history is so
$7.5 million
weird
in cash because he hit all his stipulated money. So he still gets like a 33% raise off the 7.5.
Trying to pull it up here. So
We'll
linebackers
Baker gets.
Oh, you think he gets 10?
I don't think he gets 10. I think he's closer to. He'll probably be between Willie Gay signing a 1 year, $5 million deal. And who was the other? Jordan Hicks got 2 years, 8 from Cleveland. What a great value contract that is relative to these other linebacker contracts.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, that'll be a nice one for them.
Josie Jewell got 3 for 22.5 from Carolina. So that's about 7.5 per. Like, I think that's where Baker ends up.
I hate that whenever you try to look up linebackers, it also gives you Joey Bosa and TJ Watt and Montez Sweat and Danielle Hunter. This is absolutely it's maddening. Bradley Chubb's a linebacker. Okay. Khalil Mack. Rashawn Gary's a linebacker. Get out of here.
For this categorization, I try to use spot track and just stack the inside linebacker, or the off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, you could sort by inside linebacker. Thank you, God. Okay, so we are getting a lot more healthy with the off-ball line. Yeah, it was 6, and we added almost.
We went through 4, and then max value of 1. Technically, max value of 2 because I think Levante David's. I think he only has $1 million in incentives, so I think it's technically 1 year, 9 with potential to get up to 10.
All right. there are some teams that really fascinate Kyle and I based on the maneuvers they've made to this point in the legal tampering period. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment, so be sure to stick with me. Folks, you shouldn't have to worry when you're looking to buy tickets for your next big event. Game Time is here for you, and it is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They've got killer deals on last-minute tickets, all-in prices. They give you a view from your seat and a best price guarantee. I mean, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. The app is awesome, super easy to navigate. They give you flash deals, and I also love this. When you buy a ticket from Game Time, they send it straight to your phone. You don't have to dig through emails to find it. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
I got it, Joe.
You got it.
On the bingo card, I got it.
Okay.
The least likely fit between a player and a team based on their historical tendencies at a position just came through on my timeline.
Oh, I don't know what it is.
If you could pick the least likely destination for Nick Harris.
Oh, the guard? The center, interior offensive lineman?
The interior offensive lineman, yeah.
Small, undersized.
Yeah, keep going.
What?
Who has historically hated that?
Oh, Baltimore, Seattle, the Saints.
Seattle.
Oh, is he?
Nick Harris to Seattle.
They like athletes.
But they like big guys up front.
Yeah.
It's the Tom Cable days, where they would pick guys that weren't even offensive linemen and try and make them offensive linemen.
Yeah. All right. So fascinating teams, standout teams. One of them being the Houston Texans. Been pretty active.
They're probably not done yet either.
They had a ton of cap space, and obviously they had the benefit of a quarterback on a rookie deal who looks really good, and they've had so many just like Band-Aids on that roster for the last several years. Like eventually this was going to be there for them if they got some of the infrastructure right. It's trending in that way.
And not just the quarterback, but the volume of rookie picks that they've had in general has put them in a position to really add aggressively. They agreed to terms with Danielle Hunter yesterday on a nearly fully guaranteed 2-year, $49 million contract with max value of $51 million. We mentioned Azeez Al-Shaiir, who was familiar with D'Amico Ryans from their time together in San Francisco, and he gets the bag, $11.5 million per. Is it the best value contract on the market? Maybe not. They trade for Joe Mixon for a conditional 7 to swap him out for Devin Singletary. I know you got thoughts there, but let me finish. I would guess they're probably going to also go out and get Xavien Howard in free agency too. Howard's from Houston. That would be home for him. And they've got Stingley on one side. Nelson's an expiring contract. So I would not be surprised if that shoe also drops. And then you're going to look at this depth chart and you're going to say, wow, they got a lot to work with.
I hear you on this, but I also feel like they're just swapping things. Like Jonathan Grenard goes, Danielle Hunter comes in.
Is it not an upgrade?
It's a more expensive player that
is it not an upgrade?
It's probably an upgrade, but I don't know that I sit here and feel like it's that drastic. They swap Blake Cashman for Azeez Al-Shaiir, who's more expensive.
I think that's an upgrade though.
Right, but like these are just like the same position. They swap out Joe Mixon for Devin Singletary.
I don't know that that's an upgrade.
Like to me, the best thing they did was sign Danico Autry, but they don't have Sheldon Rankins anymore either.
2 years 20 is an outstanding value contract, and they re-signed Dalton Schultz. 3 years 36. So I think it's a good point that they are addressing needs in free agency, but I think they're getting better players in the vast majority of their spots, and it's impressive talent.
The point that I'm making is I'm concerned about what's next, because I feel like we had a player out, we had a player in. Do we look at Xavien Howard? Is he a better player than Steven Nelson? He can be. Is he going to be healthy? Is that knee finally going to be the end of the rope for Xavien Howard that I've heard about for the last 6 years, it feels like?
They also have the draft coming up, which I think, and the biggest thing with the draft, right, is you want to address as many of your needs, so you go in,
be flexible,
slate to just be able to draft the best players you have on the board. And I think Houston won't be in a position to do that because of how they have addressed the rest of it. Granted, they don't have their one, right? That's Arizona's pick.
Yeah, but they still have one. Courtesy of Cleveland?
The Browns.
Yeah. So they're still winds up being a playoff team, which is probably unfortunate for Houston. So I'm intrigued. I feel like their activity level, their trajectory, what they're doing compared to previous years, I feel better about. I'm curious about what's next, because I think where I can really feel like they're getting better is the next slew of moves.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm ready to talk about Philly now.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk about the Eagles, who came out and signed Saquon Barkley to a 3-year, $37.75 million contract.
Howie doesn't care about running backs, though.
Right. Yeah, we got told for years, don't mock us backs, don't have us sign players. Howie doesn't care. You give everybody enough time, eventually they're going to do something with everybody, right?
Right.
Bryce Huff. This is a little bit more up Howie's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's 3 years, 51 in the midst of Josh Sweat trade rumors and Hassan Reddick being shopped.
That future of the edge situation is fascinating to me, because they had those guys in place. They have Nolan Smith, who they took in the first round last year. Now they have Bryce Huff. Like, Brandon Graham's back, if I'm not mistaken, for his 947th season. So who are we keeping? Who are the guys here? Like, it feels like someone's going to get traded.
Okay, so guys in contract years. Fletcher Cox retired. Josh Sweat is in a contract year, but he's got a bigger cap hit in 2025 in the cumulative void dollars that they've pushed off than he does with his actual cap hit this year. And that's what for Philly is so interesting to me. Walk with me, okay? And Hassan Reddick is in a contract year, and he's got over $14.5 million in void money for 2025.
Yikes.
So you could trade Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick, but the void dollars that accelerate, if you do this before June 1st, you get, on top of what's already prorated out for Josh Sweat, you get $9.7 million from 2025 through 2028 coming into this year's cap as dead cap. And then you get 14.6 coming from 2025 through 2027 just for Hassan Reddick coming into this year, plus what this year's prorated portions of his signing bonus and restructured dollars were. You're going to have Kelsey, $16.43 million in void money in 2025 after retiring. If you do the same thing with Fletcher Cox, that's $10 million in 2025 void dollars. So they have, excuse me, and then like James Bradbury, you know how bad that contract looks right now?
Oh, it's so terrible. It's terrible.
So you want to walk through his cap hits for the next 3 years?
Yeah, please do.
$4.45 million this year, $7.8 million in 2025, and a $21 million void cap hit in 2026.
That's going to hurt so bad.
Darius Slay, 10-9 this year, 14 in 2025, and then 14 in void money in 2026. So this is what's fascinating for Philly is it's like, I trust me, as a team who just let two players on $100 million contracts walk, my fans are asking me, how is Philly, with all the players that they're paying, signing Saquon Barkley and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Bryce Huff to these big money contracts with all the players that they've paid? This is how. But this is what all in actually looks like in the NFL, right? Just like we are going to drive it over the edge, and we're going to try to just see how long we can ride it until the bottom completely falls out. And that's a choice.
Yeah.
And certain executives have the fluidity and the flexibility and the grace to be able to do that. But if you're wondering how can the Eagles sign Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff? We didn't even get into A.J. Brown has a $10 million void cap hit in 2027 at the end of his deal. Now Dallas Goedert in 2026 has an $8.2 million void hit. Lane Johnson in 2028, $11 million in void money. Jordan Mailata in 2026 has a $26 million void hit. Like every significant contract has an additional year's worth of premium pay at their position in void dollars where they're not under contract to play. Now, you give those guys extensions, it doesn't all accelerate into the first year like that, and it'll be a little more digestible. But this is kind of, you're in uncharted territory in teams like New Orleans, who's been so well documented for being up against it for so long. And now Philly's kind of becoming, in my eyes, that other team, where they're really pushing the brink and the limits of what you can do.
I wonder how much of this is Howie gets the benefit of the doubt, because he's built, now they didn't win 2 Super Bowls, but he's built 2 very different teams that reset a lot and went to the Super Bowl. And so I'm guessing there's some level of trust that he can continue to do that. It's risky. I think for them, the coaching dynamics this year should be a lot better with their coordinators. That's first and foremost. But there's some concern long term, and we'll see if he can do it again.
Well, and he does deserve the benefit of the doubt, because he's been through 3 full life cycles, right? From when he first got there over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Went through the Chip Kelly era. Then goes through the Doug Peterson era and is now in the Nick Sirianni era. And they all look different, right?
Some of those mainstays in Graham and Kelsey and Cox, though, right? Like kind of just always been part of it. Well, 2 of those guys are now gone.
For sure.
So we'll see.
So Hassan Reddick, just to follow up, you could trade Hassan Reddick pre-June 1st, but you would save $1.3 million off of his $20-something million cap hit. So it's not like you have an out, but you're going to eat $20 million in dead money because of how you've structured the other guys. Josh Sweat's the other one, right? If you traded Josh Sweat, he's on the books right now for a $9 million cap hit. If you were to trade him, you'd lose $5.5 million against the cap. So this is when teams talk about flexibility, and I talk about exit strategies and exit ramps on contracts and being able to take them and have fluidity. You do this long enough, you're going to lose that fluidity, and you're going to be stuck with guys like James Bradbury for a year or 2 longer than you ideally would, just because it's more expensive to get rid of them than it is to keep them against the cap. And they're just going to keep going because they just gave Bryce Huff, Gardner Johnson, and Saquon Barkley nice deals.
Landon Dickerson, $21 million a year guard, man.
Well deserved, though. He's a
I mean,
player.
Yeah, but also
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. That is going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. Day 2 of legal tampering in the books. League calendar year starts, too much C4, sorry. League calendar year starts at 4 o'clock, so these deals can start getting formally signed. You can look for that, and you can look for us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Make it a great rest of your day. We're out of here. Peace.